friends, thanks for joining me for the October Fragrance Awards. If you're new to the channel, I have been doing this monthly series just for fun with these faux award categories that I made up all in my head. And it's kind of a recap of the fragrances that I wore over the past month. At least most of them, I'd say about 80% of the fragrances make it into the video. The other 20% just don't fit into the categories, or I don't talk about them so that the video isn't 3 hours long. Happy Halloween if you are someone who indulges in the spooky season and you are watching this on October 31st. We are definitely going to be handing out candy on Halloween. I'm filming this on the Sunday before, but we're just going to pretend it is Halloween. So we're handing out candy tonight and I'm giving out the good stuff. I definitely get the Reese's peanut butter cups, the Snickers bars, the whole bit. You know, I want people to really enjoy coming up to the door and leave with handfuls of cavity-inducing, amazing chocolate goodness. So enjoy if you are indulging tonight. I want to apologize to the audience because I promised to do a Halloween video, and friends, I just haven't gotten around to it. I made a list of fragrances that are spooky to me that I thought would be great for a Halloween night. And then I made a list of movies, my Halloween or spooky or frightening or horror movies or psychological thrillers, etc., that I really love. And I was intending to marry the two for a video. And friends, I just never got around to it. So I'm going to leave both of those, the list and the movies, in my community tab and ask that you indulge that way and forgive me for not actually filming a video. Let's get into the Fragrance Awards. It was a good month. I did have some travel in the month of October. And if you've been with me for a while, we have joked around about how I am desperate for a compliment at a work event. And I am happy to say that I got a couple of compliments, and I'm going to share with you one fragrance, actually two, that elicited compliments, or garnered rather compliments for me, and one that I was surprised that didn't. But let's get moving here. The first category is best for the season. Of course, it is October. There's a chill in the air in the mornings and in the afternoons, still a little sort of warm during the day, but we've had some pretty cool moments here, and it is the height of spooky season today on Halloween. I did wear in the month of October several times Jest by Andrea Maack. By the way, there are two new ones in the line. I think it's called Osmo one, and then the other one is Zing. And I am getting Zing in PR from Twisted Lily, and we'll share my thoughts with you both on that and on Osmo, because I ended up purchasing samples of Osmo and Zing as well. But we're going to feature Zest for spooky season. I love that this is this sort of silky fragrance. It has a silky texture to it with this really sort of dark, brooding background without being too heavy into deep, dark winter season type of fragrances. It stays a little bit lighter in terms of the overall texture of the fragrance, which makes it perfect for the season. I love that this has this sort of darker cacao note. It actually is listed as chocolate. Hold on, let me make sure. Yes, chocolate in the note structure. But for me, it comes across a little bit more like a darker cacao type of note that has a slight dustiness in the background, which I really like. It's almost like when you mix hot cocoa before you put in anything else, like any milk or creamer or anything like that, and you just have the dark cocoa mixed into your hot water. That sort of deeper, darker, chocolatey smell versus like a milk chocolate bar is in here. Top notes here are plum, cardamom, and apple. There is a slight fruitiness. I love that there's a little bit of brightness and like crispiness from an apple note. Crispness, not crispiness. Crispness from the apple note here, and the chocolate, and this sort of boozy, woody background that I think makes this beautiful for this time of year. Some additional notes are rum in the fragrance, like a booziness from rum, vanilla and Broxen, and musk in the base. So you do get this sort of vanillic, woody deal happening here throughout the entire fragrance, along with that cocoa and a couple of fruity notes. And it's a really delightful fragrance. It's very squarely unisex and performs really well. It stayed on me all day long pretty much and had a really nice projection as well. So that is Just from Andrea Maack. Just the right amount of spooky darkness for this time of year without going deep dark into winter territory. So about my work events, I had 6 days with colleagues at 2 different events. And one of the fragrances that I doused myself in is Musk Therapy. So this is my choice for best everyday fragrance, like easy wearing, white t-shirt and jeans, run errands all year long. You can put a fragrance like this on and just wear it and not worry about whether you're offending anyone. It's just really easygoing. This fragrance is, a lot of you know it already, right? It's from Initio, and it's characterized by this very sort of bright, easygoing, light, wispy, citrusy tones at the top of the fragrance. I believe there's bergamot and I want to say lemon, but I don't remember. I don't have the notes pulled up in front of me. Definitely a bergamot note and some other just sort of citrusy, general citrusy tones. And then it has this beautiful, light, bright musk in the base. The whole thing is a very uplifting, clean, fresh feeling citrus musk combination and perfect for work settings. The disappointment is that I pretty much doused myself in this and didn't get a single compliment on musk therapy. I will say the day that I wore this, we went into a restaurant that had a lot of food odors in the air. There were very heavy food odors, but we were in very close proximity to each other. There was like a mingler. Is that what you call them? I forget the name of them, but when you want people, like a social mingler, you want people to just hang around like before, like a reception before dinner. We had something like that where we were all standing up very close to each other. I went in and hugged colleagues and I sprayed this on fairly heavily before I went into the environment and I didn't get a single compliment. So this was not that fragrance. The fragrance that won the compliment deal is coming up in the lineup, but I still love this as an everyday easygoing fragrance. So I put this in that category and I wouldn't hesitate to wear it again to work events, even though you let me down. We didn't get any compliments from Musk Therapy. In the special occasion category, I gotta give it to Hypnotizing Fire from the Harmonist, which is newer in my collection. I really enjoyed wearing this. Even just sniffing it from the nozzle is just quite the experience. There's some interesting notes in here I want to share. Pimento berries, pepper tree, cloves, Bulgarian rose, patchouli, praline. The way that I would describe this fragrance is mysterious, very sexy and alluring. There is a like a je ne sais quoi to this fragrance that's really, really difficult to describe. I would say it has this sort of spiciness to it, along with like if I gave it a color, it would be the color of amber. Something really warm, almost resinous in the fragrance. Like I think the description talks about this being a glowing fragrance. I love that it's called Hypnotizing Fire because then I imagine the tones in like a fire that is dancing in the background and just has you staring at it. You think about the oranges and the reds and maybe even some blues in a fire that is coming up from a big bonfire or a fireplace and you're hypnotized by the fire type of deal. But warm, spicy, a little resinous, like I said. There's something really sort of glowing and cocooning about this fragrance, but also deeply sexy. There is vanilla and benzoin in the base of the fragrance that I think make this really a lovely fragrance for anyone to wear. It's definitely unisex, although I think there is a beautiful sort of set of feminine tones in the fragrance that make this really appropriate for me. And it feels glamorous when I put it on. It's like glamorous and edgy combined in one. And not for everyone. Definitely something I would say to sample first, especially if you're intimidated by deeper, heavier, thicker fragrances. This is one that is probably best in cooler weather. Could I wear it in the summer? Sure, of course, you can wear anything, anytime, but there is a sort of thickness to this fragrance that feels to me very ambery and resinous and just rich and opulent with a little bit, like I said, a little sort of thread of silky spiciness in this and this glowy thing that sort of just dances through the entire fragrance that I think makes this particularly unique. I can't say that I've smelled much like this or that I have anything similar to this in my collection. It stands alone and it's really unique. So anyway, that is Hypnotizing Fire. Again, another one that lasted a pretty long time on me. I sprayed this on in the morning. I could still smell this way into dinner time and into the evening hours as well. In the category of the sexiest fragrance, I gotta give it to Donna Born in Roma Intense from Valentino. I love the ombre effect on this bottle. I did get a littler one. I'm trying to be better about purchasing fragrances in smaller bottles since I have so many at this point. Sorry, I had the little cap on that all crooked like she was out having a drunken night. Pardon me. And I've gone through quite a bit of this fragrance so far. This is so alluring. We joke around. I think it is Jamie at Not Another Perfume Channel. I think is the name of her channel. Love Jamie. If you haven't checked her out, please do. She is a barrel of fun. Just love her. Anyway, we talk about jasmine being like catnip for men. There is a prominent jasmine in this fragrance, and it is not an indolic kind. If you're newer to fragrances, the term indolic just means that it smells like a bit of a decaying parts of a flower. If you've had a bouquet out too long and it starts to get a little bit on the stinky side, that smell in the air is what indolic means. No, it is a very fresh and sexy jasmine, if you ask me. And I love that the fragrance is intensely creamy to me, to my nose. And there is a lot of vanilla in the fragrance and benzoin. And benzoin can have this sort of like woody or musky or resinous or all of the above. And sometimes vanilla, it can show up a lot of different ways in, in fragrances. It's thick. It is alluring. It is sexy. It is mature. You know, this is definitely like an evening or date night fragrance. Of course, I wore it all day long while I was working from home, and I was really feeling myself. I was really feeling myself when I wore this fragrance. I feel very much like a vixen when I have this one on. It smells how the bottle looks in terms of the feeling that it gives you. You know, you feel like you've put on your little black dress and your high heels, and you've got your makeup done up to the nines, and you are going out for a very exotic, sexy night on the town with your boo, with your significant other. So definitely Sexiest Fragrance. Another nicely lasting fragrance. I get a good, you know, like workday out of it. It projects most probably in the first 4 to 6 hours and then gets closer to the skin, but it has nice lasting power to it. So the next fragrance is the biggest surprise, and I have to give it to the one that actually garnered me two wholehearted big compliments on the ground in person with my colleagues who came close to me and told me how wonderful I smelled, just raved about how fabulous I smelled. I don't normally love to put multiple fragrances from one house in a video, but I got to give it up to Ceramic from Andrea Maack. So this has become a go-to fragrance for work events. I remember when I first looked into this fragrance, I was really impressed by the reviews saying that it lasted really long for it to be this sort of day-to-day, like everyday fragrance. This could easily be in that category as well. It smells like a clean, floral and musky fragrance. It smells super clean, and it has a touch of floral and a touch of musky woodiness. And so this is one that smells like clean, fresh clothing. And I wouldn't say it smells like laundry detergent. It doesn't smell like that. It smells like clean, fresh clothing that also has a touch of florals in it. So some of the key notes: apple, freesia, lily of the valley. Freesia and lily of the valley tend to show up as clean florals and fragrances and give just sort of this like fresh out of the shower, fresh laundry type of smell. It says it has white and purple flowers. I would not be able to tell you what those are or detect those. And then a musky, woody, ambery base. So if you think about your skin having its own sort of sweet, musky smell, like, you know, skin has its own smell. You take that and you combine it with clean florals and a little tiny bit of woodiness, you may have an impression of what this smells like. And so here's another fragrance that this smells like. Hang with me here because they're really not the same, and people would never ever compare these two. But Yum Pistachio Gelato from Kayali. If you can imagine that stripped back to its most essential clean components and woody and musky components, if you think about that, that's sort of, this could be like a distant cousin to those aspects of that fragrance. So if you like that fragrance, but it feels too in your face or too powerful or too overwhelming, maybe get a decant of this and see if it scratches the itch. The other thing I would say about this, if you've tried Skin from Clean Reserve and you like the way that that smells, that sort of warm, musky, kind of praline smell, and you wanted it to be a little bit on the cleaner side, this may be a good alternative for you. I love that the fragrance lasts a long time, so I gave myself a good spray down with this the day that I wore it in the morning, and I could smell it well into the evening hours as well. And so anyway, great for work events apparently, and also a great day-to-day fragrance. I am about to hear on this one, which is saying a lot for this fragrance, and we'll continue to suck this thing down as today's go by, and we'll use it as a staple for work events for sure. Speaking of clean floral fragrances, in the category of best bottle, can we have a moment for this unsung hero from the YSL Libre line? This is YSL Libre Absolu Platine. Did I get that right? Yes, I did. Absolu Platine. And this has been classified as a warm floral fragrance. I don't get warmth out of this. I get coolness, and I'll describe that in a minute. But the reason that it's in this category is because of this sort of futuristic metal-looking bottle. It reminds me of what I think the inside of spaceships are supposed to look like. Or, you know, I'm an 80s kid, or I grew up in the 80s. I was born in the 70s, but grew up in the 80s. And think about what I thought spaceships looked like in that day and time, what, you know, space items and so forth. Anyway, what am I talking about here? The fragrance itself, the bottle is very pretty. It has this sort of bejeweled thing going around the other YSL Libre bottles, but I appreciate the sort of silver. It's almost like mercury. the way that mercury looks. Remember, did you have those kinds of thermometers? Now thermometers, you can point them at your head and get your temperature. But back in my day, you put them underneath your tongue and it had the mercury inside, if you remember that. That's what this reminds me of, that kind of metal. This fragrance is actually very similar to ceramic, whereas this one leans a little bit more like clean clothing direction. This one has a little bit more muskiness and maybe a little bit of powderiness. And I think the florals in here shine a little bit more, but there's something very cool, like the color of the bottle in this fragrance. The keynotes featured on the YSL website: orange blossom, lavender. It says Diva lavender. And someone told me what that is, and I have forgotten. I mean, you can Google it. Vanilla bourbon and a white lavender accord. So I don't feel like this smells very much like the rest of the Libre line at all, where the orange blossom and the lavender really shine in those fragrances. Here, there's something very cool, almost like fresh linens that you have placed on your bed, and it's a cool day outside. You've got the windows open, and there's that breeze coming through, and the scent of whatever you washed your sheets in is up in the air, along with maybe a candle in the distance that's burning something that's a little bit powdery and floral. It's just such a unique fragrance, one that I would definitely say to try out before buying. I think that ceramic is like a safe blind buy for those of you that like clean smelling floral, woody, musky fragrances. This is like a no-brainer. This one has some unique touches that I think are worth checking out to see if they really work for you, especially as you get some of the powderiness from this. It's like a creamy powderiness, as I always talk about, like a dense powderiness. But I think this is a fabulous fragrance and an unsung hero from the line, and a beautiful little bottle. I do have a candidate for worst bottle. And it's not because there's anything wrong with the bottle I'm going to show you. It's because I think it betrays how lovely the fragrance actually is, because the bottle is super simple. So this is from Fugazzi or Fugazzi. So the owner of the brand says you can say it however you want. He doesn't have a preference for how it is pronounced. And this one is Angel Dust. And you may remember this was sent to me by Twisted Lily a number of months ago to try. And I really liked it then. I thought it was great. Put it in the collection, didn't think about it, and have worn it since a couple to 3 more times. And I particularly love it as an evening bedtime fragrance, which is how I wore it in October. And I really enjoy what this fragrance gives. I feel like it should be in a bottle that is more like, what is that bottle called? The Michael Malul bottle, Vanilla and Cream, I think it's called, where it has that sort of creamy looking hazy color that wraps around the bottle. That is the feeling that this fragrance gives me. It has such a lovely light wafting in the air. My husband really, really enjoyed this on me, so I definitely want to share that. And he wanted me to wear it again the next evening. The notes here: cashmere, bergamot, pepper, cashmere, white amber crystals. Forget all of that and just know that this smells slightly peppery. So if you're averse to pepper, you may not enjoy it because you do pick it up here. And I would say it has this sort of subtle, soft, wispy woodiness to it in the background that feels like, I mean, you smell like this woodiness, but also there's this like fluffy texture to this. It is the smell is like the feeling that you get from a very squishy pillow. Like when you lay your head down on the pillow and it has that sort of bouncy effect to it, but it also just kind of wraps around your head when you're ready to go to sleep, and you find your spot there. This is a little bit, that feeling that you get from that is the texture of this fragrance, if that makes any kind of sense at all. And I do think about like cashmere sweaters. I think about big throws that you put on your couches or on your favorite club chair that is a really sort of warm, fluffy, almost like a fuzzy feeling to it. That is what this fragrance smells like. It's a nice, I usually would call this like a skin scent, but it really is a little bit more than a skin scent even. It has a nice little projection. It has a skin scent kind of smell. Maybe would layer nicely with something like vanilla skin from Fleur or skin from Clean Reserve, or one of those kinds of musky skin scents that just smell really like close to the skin and like warm, like a warm hug. This is almost like a cool hug with the cushiness from the pillow, and it's a really interesting fragrance. And so I wish it was in a bottle that portrayed what the fragrance smelled like and made you feel like, because I think this bottle is elegant and nice, but very sort of nondescript. And so this would get worst bottle because I want it to be prettier and softer and a more inviting bottle. Angel Dust. In the category of favorite blind buy, I got to give it to this little gem in my collection that I don't talk about often and I don't wear often, but when I pull it out and wear it, I'm like, this is so good. It is from Nicolai Parfumeur and it is Kiss Me Intense. I only have this little tiny bottle and one that I would likely re-up if and when I ever finish this bottle. And I love the sort of creamy, very almost citrusy almond that's in the fragrance. The keynotes here, heliotrope, vanilla. Definitely this is heavy on vanilla. Aniseed, almond, and fresh cut hay. I don't get anything that resembles fresh cut hay to me. I definitely get this creamy almondy nature to this in a very light vanilla base. I don't mean light in terms of the way that the vanilla shows up because you do get a prominent vanilla in the fragrance, but it isn't a thick, dense vanilla. It is like vanilla in its lightest form, if you will, in its lightest texture. I think this is lovely for date night and would wear really lovely under a warm sweater and has a very sort of feminine touch to it. Yeah, it's like delicate, dainty, feminine, sweet, creamy, and very easy wearing. The only critique I have about this fragrance is it doesn't last very long. And so I have used it traditionally as a bedtime scent or on days when I'm just, I just showered and want to put nice fresh pajamas on and hang out on the couch and watch a movie. Kiss Me Intense would be a fabulous choice, but I've enjoyed this since I purchased it. I actually have two from Gritti in the next two categories. So I did it again, like with Andrea Maack, two from the same house. So this category is not a safe blind buy. And I'm going to go with Gritti Rialto in this beautiful velvet bottle with the nasty fingerprints on the top. Pardon me. I thought I had cleaned those off. I guess I had not. I talked about this at length in, oh, you can see me. Hey, how you doing? Hey, girl. Hey. I talked about this at length in my unisex gems video. If you haven't caught that and you are a fan of unisex fragrances, the thumbnail looks like this, and I'll link it in the description box for you, of course. In fact, all of the fragrances are linked in the description box as well. Rialto, it's on the expensive side of the Gritti fragrances. This one, I think, is almost close to $400. Oh my God. Of course, I got a discount on it because we don't buy retail over here for anything, much of anything anyway. So it is mostly a saffron and oud fragrance. Those are the dominant notes for me. And it is a soft, classy, elegant oud. It's an extrait de parfum. And so it's a kind of an oily fragrance. So just know that, by the way, and as I say in other videos, extrait does not mean more powerful, more projecting. All it means is that there is a higher concentration of the fragrance oils in this versus an eau de parfum, versus a eau de toilette, versus a cologne concentration, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this does sit closer to the skin. When you first put it on, it sort of projects out and then starts to sit closer to the skin as you go. Now, this was advertised as having a prominent mango note. I do think there is a nice sort of tropical fruitiness in the fragrance, but it is in the background to me, or a side player rather, compared to the saffron and the oud that for me are the main players in the fragrance. I think to most ladies, this fragrance would read a little bit masculine, except for those of you that are really into unisex fragrances or you don't mind masculine fragrances on yourself. Definitely give this one a go. I think that the addition of the mango, and then there's a very, very soft, subtle rose note in the fragrance as well, lend some feminine aspects to this that make it unisex for me. And I really enjoyed wearing this. So check this out. If you can get a decant of this, do that first because it is a very pricey fragrance and you want to make sure you enjoy it before you splurge for something like this. So not a safe blind buy. So in the overhyped category, and maybe this is a little controversial, I do enjoy this fragrance. I wore it and I will wear it again. I will continue to wear this bottle. It's very pretty. But I do think it is a little bit generic smelling for the amount of hype that it has gotten. And I would still tell you to check it out. It's a nice fragrance, but it is also from Gritti, and this is Tutu Blanc. I love the name of the fragrance, Tutu Blanc. So of course I think of young ladies in their tutus and flying across the stage in white tutus, in particular Blanc, right? It's lovely. It is, I would say, some citrus. I think it's grapefruit. Hold on a second. Yeah, grapefruit and apple are some of the notes in the fragrance. Coconut, I can't say I really get a lot of sort of creamy coconut. And then there's this musky fruitiness. And so that's really what it is. It's a musky, fruity fragrance with some touches of creaminess in the fragrance. And it's delightful. It's girly. It's light wearing, which is part of the overhyped piece of this, okay? And not very long lasting. You may get a half a day's wear out of this. It's still lovely. It's absolutely worth checking out. And if you like this house, which I am starting to explore more from the house, fell head over heels for Duchessa, the cherry fragrance from the house. Oh, so good. That's my favorite. And I want to buy more from Gritti. They're beautiful. However, this is not a unique scent profile for the price of the fragrance, so definitely think about getting it on sale. Check it out. Love the name. Nice fragrance, but is it the most unique? Not necessarily. Did it deserve the tremendous hype that it got when it first came out? I think it maybe was a little bit overblown, but it is a really nice fragrance. So I had to pick on someone for this category, and Tutu Blanc, today it was you. Then, in the category of hidden gem, I have talked about this fragrance a number of times. I don't really hear anyone else ever talking about it, and I'm not sure why, because it is such a gorgeous little number. This is from Origins, and it's called Ginger Essence, one of the only fragrances that I actually have a backup for. And I have the backup because at one point this was discontinued. And so when it came back on the market, I was like, I will never be without my beautiful ginger essence again. And I ran and got the big bottle. This is, I think, the 1.7 ounce, and I got the big 3 ounce bottle waiting in the closet. This is so easy, by the way, to overspray. And it is a beautiful, light, citrusy fragrance. It's called Ginger Essence. And I love that name for it. It has, I think it's lemon, and I want to say lime or some other citrusy type of note in the top, and a beautiful, light, fresh, sparkling ginger accord to it. It's a simple fragrance that way. There's a little bit of a sweetness and a zinginess to this. I have really fantastic memory associations with this fragrance from hanging out with a friend and trying it with her for the first time. It had a sugar scrub that I have, it has a sugar scrub that I have, well, I don't even know if it's sold anymore. Excuse me. When it first came out, there was a sugar scrub that was advertised with it. Let me see if that's still sold. Hang on, friends. Why, yes. It is called the Body Scrub, the Smoothing Body Buffer. That is sold as well. There is also a ginger essence souffle that I have. That is a beautiful silky lotion that you can put on, like a creamy lotion. But the fragrance itself, my only critique is that it isn't the longest lasting. And maybe that's okay for this type of fragrance. You'll get a half a day out of it, and that's okay. But it is delightful and pleasant and non-offensive. And there's something really sort of therapeutic about how bright and fresh and inviting it is. Inviting, there's like an innocence to this that I just really love and adore. And I recognize this instantly on anyone wearing ginger essence. I'm like, you are wearing ginger essence, aren't you? Why, yes, I am. So if you like an inoffensive day-to-day, zingy, bright, gingery type of scent, you can't go wrong with ginger essence. And in that sense, it is a hidden gem because people don't really talk about this at all. And I love it. In the category of worth hunting down, this is from Trussardi, and you have to look for the grayish, like beige, and grayish bottle. It is called Aperitivo Milanese Porta Nuova. How did I do with that pronunciation? Let me say it again. Aperitivo Milanese Porta Nuova. It's from La Vie de Milano line, which represents I always say walkway, and that's not what I mean to say. Of course, the word is escaping me, but like a gallery of stores and shops. There's a promenade. That's the word I'm looking for, like a promenade of stores and shops in Milano. I have enjoyed most from this line. There was one that was maybe a little bit darker for me. I forget what it's called, that I ended up selling, and someone has it. It's in someone's happy home right now. But this fragrance here is absolutely worth hunting down if you like happy, sweet, powdery fragrances. So this is very much a powdery fragrances, a powdery fragrance with a prominent note of heliotrope. Ooh, so pretty. So if you have tried Pegasus from Parfums de Marly, that is like an almondy powdery fragrance that has some touches of lavender, which I really enjoy. And I ended up selling it off because I think the lavender was maybe a little tiny bit in the like fougere direction for me. If you're newer to fragrances, again, fougere means like barbershop-y types of smells, or you typically associate them with masculine fragrances. And I preferred this one to Pegasus, is all I'm getting at this. That's the only reason I brought that up, although that's a beautiful fragrance too. There's something citrusy and bright here in this fragrance, fresh, like it's just a happy powdery scent. And some of the notes here: neroli at the top, Calabrian bergamot, mandarin leaf. And so I guess those are the citrusy aspects of the fragrance. Amaretto, iris, and heliotrope in the mid, and then vanilla, benzoin, and amber in the base. When I think of amber, I usually think of heavier fragrances. Let me look at y'all through here, that have some base to them, like some grounding. I feel like this stays really fluffy and up in the clouds, although the vanilla does give this a little bit of base, but it's not like a grounded fragrance. It's a very light fragrance, happy, nice projection, nicely long lasting. I love the combination of the citruses and the powderiness from the heliotrope, and the way that the iris shows up in here. It's almost like a sweet iris. Iris can be dry, and it can come off a little bit cold. Here it's very warm, probably because it's sitting alongside of those other notes and the benzoin and that vanilla. And it's just super delightful. Very, very feminine fragrance, in my opinion. And it has this cleanness to it, like this clean, happy, bright, sunny vibe, while still being powdery and feminine. And it's lovely, worth hunting down. Next, we are going to go to the low, the middle, and the high fragrances of the month, excluding what we've already talked about, because some of those go in those categories too. I really need to put myself in timeout for this next fragrance. I have tried it. I sampled it before I purchased it. I thought it was fabulous. I just knew I was going to love it. This sucker came home and I sprayed it on and I was like, what in the world is happening with this? Everybody has raved about it that has tried it. And I just knew I needed it on my shelf. So this is in the low category, and it's from Tamine. And y'all, no tomatoes, blue heart. Can we talk about what in the world happened with this fragrance? I'm going to try it again because I believe it deserves another try based on my experience with it. When I sampled this fragrance, I got something that was a lot like, it reminded me of Fan Your Flames from Ni Chanel, if you have tried that, which is rum. And I think that one has tobacco, and some heavy sort of woody male notes and coconut. And it's a little bit smoky. I didn't get smokiness in this one, but I feel like I got this like densely woody, coconutty, sweet smelling fragrance. And so unfortunately, when I wore it this month, it nauseated me. It made me sick to my stomach, and I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on and why this was so different than my sampling experience. I'm not one that believes in bad batches. You see that a lot in reviews or in comments when people are like, oh, everyone seems to be having such a different experience than I am with X fragrance. I must have gotten a bad batch. Friends, these companies have high quality control with their fragrances. Might there be some subtle differences from batch to batch? Perhaps, but not to the point of getting a bad batch. So I don't know what's happening here. There's something very, I don't even know how to describe it. There's something really sort of chemical plasticiness in this fragrance that is bothering me. It bothered me when I wore it. It felt sharp. It felt intrusive. It felt like it intended to bother the hell out of me, and it did. So what I'm going to do with this fragrance, Blue Heart, it is on my shelf to sell, but I'm going to try it again one morning before I shower. We're going to try this again, and we're going to see if I get a different experience. Because right now we're not vibing, and I'm sad. I'm sad about it. It happens. It happens. I'm always talking about how sampling and the bottle are not the same experience, or they can be different experiences. Here's a classic case of me having this sort of sultry, sweet, coconut, deep, musky, woody experience in the sampling, and then something super chemical here in person that I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So notes, supposed to be saffron and coconut at the top, in the middle, vanilla, orris root, tonka bean, base, amber, white musk, and nagar matha. No. So we're going to put this one aside. You're going to get one more chance, Blue Heart. And then you're going to be up for sale on Mercari if you don't come through. So stay tuned. In the middle category, and it's only because I'm continuing to get to know this fragrance and I'm liking it. It is a fragrance that I talked about in one of those second chance videos where I revisit samples of fragrances that initially I found off-putting or I just wasn't that into. But I thought maybe I should give them a second chance. This is one that on second chance I was like, whoa, I'm kind of missing out on this fragrance. I think I really do like it. It is Amouage Sunshine Woman. So the fragrance has nothing to do with the name, like sunshine. I think about something happy in the summertime, like a fragrance like Tilia from Marc Antoine Berrois. This one is actually for me more of like a fall and winter fragrance. And I enjoyed wearing this a lot when I tried it and thought I really need to get to know it more before I can speak very fully about it, like confidently, like I totally understand the fragrance. The fragrance for me is characterized mostly by this osmanthus note. And osmanthus smells like apricot, has a similar type of scent to that. And so there's a deep fruitiness in this fragrance for me that pops out right away. And I enjoyed the heft of it when I wore it. I enjoyed the presence that it had. I enjoyed the femininity of the fragrance. I found it to be fruit forward. Fruity forward, fruit forward when I wore it, the day I wore it. It just jumped right off of my skin as this very feminine, fruity fragrance that was deep and thick and can be cloying if you wear too much of it. So it's not one that I would say overspray. It has this sort of creamy powderiness, again, with that term, creamy powderiness in it, that I think is just lovely and alluring and comforting. And the other note here that people talk about a lot is a white tobacco note. I do get something that's a little bit sort of sultry and very much in the fall notes direction for this. I don't know that I can pick it out as tobacco per se. Other notes that stand out to me, there's vanilla in the fragrance that I think is really beautiful. Artemisia, which lends just this really sort of subtle greenness. And I think for this fragrance, I get something that is like slightly edgy without being too much into green territory. It's just a sort of light, subtle greenness in the very far background that adds dimension and depth and interest to this. So it's a very difficult fragrance for me to describe right now, which is why it's in the middle category. And I'd like to wear it some more and come back to you all and talk about more fully what I think this smells like to me. I love that it also has some very feminine floral touches in it, but I love the apricot-y, osmanthus-y, sort of creamy powderiness of this fragrance more than anything, like deeply fruity in a fall way. And it kind of surprised me. This could have been the biggest surprise as well. Let's go on to the top fragrances for October. And there were many, but I'm just going to share 4 with you. Another fragrance that garnered me a compliment. Someone hugged me at the work event and said, "You smell so good." And this has happened with this fragrance before, is from Tom Ford Soleil Neige, a fragrance that I don't really think I want to ever be without. This is for me one of my favorite Tom Fords. Soleil Neige means sun on snow or sunny snow or something like that. And so people associate this with winter. But for me, this is all year round beauty, and especially in spring and summer. Oh my God. Oh my God. Has a beautiful, bright citrus aspect to it, a very sort of soft, perfumey floral touch. And there is vanilla, and I want to say some muskiness to the base. And it is just one of the prettiest, like effortlessly happy, pretty fragrances in my entire collection. Easy reach. I never, ever regret reaching for this. I always feel feminine and fresh and uplifting and cheery and happy in this fragrance. It is supremely pretty in all the right ways. It touches all the right perfume chords or accords. You see what I did there? Cymbal crash. And it is immensely crowd pleasing. Beautiful, enveloping, sweet, feminine, pretty. You can't go wrong with this. And I understand there is an Extrait version coming out. Be still in my heart. You know I am going to be testing that out and maybe just blind buying the dang thing, because this is one of my faves. Beautiful, never fails to make me feel all put together in an effortless, gorgeous, pretty way. Soleil Neige. Then a classic that I've had for a while. I don't pull for this one often, but when I do, I never regret it. And that is Deluxe from Tiziana Terenzi. If you smell this, you know the beauty that this is. This is one of, oh my gosh. It just reminded me that I'm testing Mentor and Prodigy from Mind Games. These were sent to me by So Avant-Garde. I've tried them before. I got samples of them, and now I have the full bottles. I'm actually wearing both of those today because I'm crazy. You should not try to mix both of those. But I was thinking that, which one? Prodigy, the one in the white, reminded me of something, and it reminds me a little bit of Deluxe. It's got that. Anyway, we're not here to talk about this. We're here to talk about Deluxe. Deluxe is this gorgeous, subtle, beautiful, musky rose fragrance. It's got rose. There's coffee here, but I don't feel like I pick up coffee. If anything, notes like that or whatever else is in here add some intrigue and dimension and depth to the fragrance. It is for me a primarily, I hate the cap on this one. This hockey, I played hockey in high school, like ice hockey. I was the goalie. So, and I was a damn good goalie. I had shutout after shutout after shutout. They called me the Wall. Yes, they did. I even got this award that was Pink Floyd, The Wall, like the record. I was called The Wall. The album was very popular when I was in high school, but I was about to smell this. Jesus, send help. This reminds me of hockey pucks coming at me when I was a goalie and me blocking them out of the way. Anyway, it doesn't fit on here well. So that is a critique of the bottle design, but this is so beautiful. A subtle rose and a really like, almost like an oily muskiness and in the best way possible. It is not a wispy musk. It is a pretty dense musk, but not, it's not an overwhelming musk. It is a very sort of perfumey, elegant, just it's a beauty, this one. It is like elegance in a bottle. The coffee, I was going to say, that's what the heck I was talking about. I got distracted. The coffee in the fragrance just adds a little bit of, a slight bit of grit and dimension, in my opinion. This is a beautiful one. You know, this could be special occasion. This could be everyday. This could be sexiest. It's gorgeous. Deluxe. I also wore the beloved Angel Share from Kilian. We know all about this one. I won't go into great depth except to say that this beautiful, people compare it to apple pie smelling, boozy, ambery, cinnamony, woody fragrance is a freaking powerhouse. It was strong when I first got it, and it's even stronger. I kind of doused myself in it the day that I wore it. I gave myself a good dousing. Y'all, this thing lasted deep into the evening. I went to sleep still smelling like Angel Share. So if you are nauseated by fragrances easily, spray lightly with this one. I am not. I have a pretty big tolerance for big smells, big, powerful smells. It's so good. It's so perfect fall scent. I adore this. We all know about Angel Share, so I won't go on. I also wanted to give some love to my new beauty from Fragrance du Bois. Voyage à Paris, Voyage à Paris, Voyage à Paris. I am like deeply in love and entranced with this fragrance. I enjoyed it when I sampled it. I was surprised. I thought it was going to be some overpriced fragrance that niche snobs fall in love with. And then I fell in love with it and I was like, all right, I need a bottle of this. So much that I hunted this down at Harrods. It's widely available in the States, but I wanted to pay a little bit less. So I did that through Harrods. The notes that are featured, rum, orange blossom, honey, I would say is a big player here. A little bit of oud and vanilla and oak. It definitely has this vanilla, woody texture to it as it dries down. I would call this very much vanilla forward with a sidekick of woodiness, because the wood in here is a pretty big player too, but I feel like it's more vanilla forward, at least when I wore it this past time. Maybe another day it'll be more woody forward. The oud in here lends, did I mention that it has oud? The oud in here lends this depth, this mystery, this intrigue. It is the most perfumey, beautiful oud maybe in my entire collection, with the exception of Mentor. That oud in there is beautiful too. I'll talk about that in another video. I love the honey here that lends a beautiful, thick sweetness to it, and the booziness. So prominent notes for me: booziness, honey, vanilla, woodiness, and this thread of that gorgeous, sophisticated oud. It is absolutely magnificent. This could have been special occasion. And this thing stuck to me. Ooh, it got on my skin. It did not leave all day long. I smelled this all day and just kept getting whiffs of myself going, I smell dang good, dang good. So friends, with that, if you are still here, I need a pumpkin. Do you have a pumpkin emoji? Can you drop that in the comments to let me know you stayed till the end? If you are watching this on the morning of Halloween, happy Halloween if you celebrate. If you don't, that's cool too. We welcome everyone of all beliefs on this channel. Hope you have a safe and wonderful evening. If you are doing Halloween and you welcome trick-or-treaters, I hope you get droves and droves. Is droves the right word? We're going to use it. Droves of cute kids with beautiful Halloween costumes at your door today, because that brings me a lot of joy. And I hope you have the good candy. Don't be giving people damn raisins. Don't give out apples. It's Halloween. Give the kids the good candy. Give them the good candy. Big love to y'all. Take care.